continues here on One News Now. I'm Maricel Halil. With the holiday season fast approaching, is it time to implement looser restrictions for local and international tourists? To share his insights about this and other concerns, Okta Research Fellow Guido David joins us on the line. Professor David, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Maricel and One News.
Hi, sir. Sir, let's start off with the alert level system going nationwide tomorrow. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think it's a good time to implement it nationally. We have tried. We have piloted it in NCR, and so far it has shown good results. And we have also started it in many other provinces outside Metro Manila. And so far, we're not seeing any concerns, major concerns. So I think it's a good time to implement this leveling system all over the country.
But at least, sir, what are the latest COVID trends telling us? Should we be worried that the daily average is still not under 1,000? Although I understand that you were expecting at least 1,000 7-day average by the end of November.
Yeah, actually, we're still on track for 1,000 7-day average. And we're not very worried right now because many of the major metropolitan areas are in low risk already, and some are even in very low risk. We added a new classification to our metrics because it's time to look at it closely and to evaluate in finer details because face-to-face classes are something that is looming in the horizon. I think we're going to start implementing it. So it should be calibrated so that we can differentiate, even between low risk and very, very low risk. So, as we mentioned, the 7-day average in Metro Manila and all over the country is decreasing. I think in the country, it's now around 1,300. So it's not yet down to 1,000, but we're expecting it next week to decrease to less than 1,000.
Okay, but sir, coming into the Christmas season, do you agree that minors under 12 years old should not be allowed in malls or outside their homes?
Well, I think they could go outside their homes. I mean, going to open spaces, outdoor areas where they can, have some physical activity because it's not good physically to be, stuck inside the home for, a long time. And a lot of kids have been doing that for the past year and a half or almost 2 years. But going to malls, I think we could hold off on that decision for now. Many children are not yet vaccinated, and they're not really very good at wearing face masks as compared to adults, especially in Metro Manila. Almost all the adults are fully vaccinated, and even the 12 to 17 are starting to get vaccinated. So I think in the interest of caution, I think we could maybe hold off on the decision to allow children to go to malls at this time. But it can change quickly once the risk levels decrease even further in many places, including Metro Manila.
Sir, speaking of caution, let's talk about quarantine. Is Okta in favor of the shortened quarantine period for returning OFWs?
Yes, well, for vaccinated OFWs and even tourists, could happen sometime in the near future. We're actually in favor of a shorter quarantine as long as they still get their RT-PCR testing. Preferably even before they depart their country of origin. I think they should already have their RT-PCR test results.
Mm-hmm. But don't you think we're facing a big risk with the government saying that fully vaccinated tourists will be allowed back in the country soon?
Well, as long as I think if they're in the green or yellow list, it should be fine. We could be more cautious for tourists coming from countries with an increasing number of cases. So when we do this, when we implement this, we should be I mean, we should make sure that we monitor all the countries closely and not just, do a blanket implementation like every tourist has the same, opportunity to come here right now. So I think we could be more liberal with tourists from green and yellow countries.
Okay, I understand, sir, you said that you were still optimistic that we can reach 1,070 average in NCR come or on the last week of November. But what are your COVID projections for December and coming out of the holiday season?
Yeah, well, last year we actually had a plateau around 2,000 cases per day. But the difference is that last year we didn't have vaccinations yet. This year, that's the difference maker. It could still plateau at around 1,000. I mean, we think right now the trajectories we will probably decrease to less than 1,000 cases by next week, by the end of November. But if it continues, we might even decrease it further down to 500 cases per day, which would be really great if that happens. We will have a really good Christmas for the entire country.
Okay, Prof, are you seeing any regions or areas that are still at high risk for COVID transmission?
Actually, we're not even seeing any high-risk areas anymore. There are still some areas which are still in moderate risk. They're still recovering from the recent surge. That would probably include Zamboanga City and Negros Oriental. Catanduanes recently had, I think it was in the news, although relatively the number of cases there is not as high compared to others, but I think we could monitor some of these areas closely. In Isabela, there are some smaller municipalities that are seeing a higher number of cases compared to last week. But again, these are smaller municipalities. They will not be causing any major risks to the pandemic right now in other areas.
All right. Thank you, Professor. That was Professor Guido David of the Octa Research Team. We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Maricel Halil. Presidential aspirant and Manila Mayor Isko Moreno hoped to inspire garbage collectors and junk shop operators to dream of a better life. JC Cosico with the details.
Aksyon Demokratiko standard bearer Manila Mayor Isko Moreno Dumagoso vowed to address the country's garbage problems. This as he met with garbage collectors and junk shop operators in Payatas, Quezon City. Hundreds welcomed the presidential aspirant. He even exchanged selfies with residents, resulting to a lack in physical distancing.
Ang sarap ng amoy nyo. Parang dati lang Walang bago. Sabi nga ni Chairman, yung basurero ng Tundok, basurero ng Payatas. Tapos na panahon ng mga elitista. Basurero naman ngayon.
Dumagoso says he wants to be an inspiration to Payatas residents as he was also a garbage collector before.
Pumunta tayo rito para maipakita natin sa mga tao na pagsikapan nila ng maigi yung kanilang mga anak sapagkat kung ano ang nangyari sa akin, natulad din naman nila ang sitwasyon ko ngayon. No? Sa sitwasyon ko nung nakaraan, may pag-asa ang buhay at makakaraos din tayo. na hindi imposible na kahit ikaw'y basurero, hindi ka naangat sa buhay. Na kahit ikaw'y basurero, may pag-asa ka pala maging Pangulo ng bansa.
Mayor Isko vows to address garbage problems once elected as president. He wants to expand the materials recovery facility, which he claims helps the environment.
Kami, puno-puno kami ng kadugyutan. Pero yung atin naman, nililinis natin ng kalsada, hinahakot natin ng basura, at tapos nakapaghahanap buhay pa rin yung mga basurero natin sa Maynila. At pwedeng puhunanan ng gobyerno under DNR. So we will reinforce on whatever capacity na kayang gawin ng national government para itong type of livelihood na to ay ma-recognize.
Dumagoso also underscored the need to manage biological waste since we're still in the middle of a pandemic. Among this is the use of face shields. After being one of the first LGU to lift its mandatory usage, Mayor Isko said he's happy with President Duterte's order to lift the policy.
If we are talking of 100 million Filipinos being required of face shield, 100 million plastic yun. Almost every day or every other day or every week. So imagine mo yung basura na mapupunta sa ating mga dump site. So yun yung ating logic kasi wala pang science. But if there is a need, then so be it. It has to be managed properly. Lalo na yung mga needles, mga bakuna, and so on and so forth.
He will also use technology to better address garbage problems.
Baka naman meron ng mga bagong teknolohiya sa mundo na kung saan wag na magkaroon ng isa pang payatas. I'll listen to whatever technologies in the world and I'll try to get it and bring it in the country so that mabawasan na rin yung mga landfill concept. So daan-daan, kailangan may improvement, kailangan may pagbabago, kailangan natututo tayo at sumasabay tayo sa panahon.
Moreno also visited the Payatas Memorial Marker where he lit candles to commemorate the July 2000 tragedy where hundreds died after a dump site landslide in the area. For News 5, JC Cosico, we are One News.
The Justice Department is set to file its motion for reconsideration on the dismissal of the drug case against Julian Ongpien. Recall that Ongpien was also a person of interest in the death of artist Bree Johnson. Justice Secretary Bernardo Guevara said prosecutors will file their motion on Monday, but Guevara did not elaborate on the content of the motion, saying the information will be released after it has been finalized and filed in court. Guevara adds that the Immigration Bureau will continue to monitor Ongpien's whereabouts, though the court lifted a precautionary whole departure order after the case dismissal. Local airlines are appealing for simpler travel requirements for passengers. The Air Carriers Association of the Philippines said passengers continue to face challenges due to different requirements imposed by local government units. They are now urging the government to simplify requirements for traveling in anticipation of higher demand due to the holiday season. ACAP notes that local carriers are currently experiencing high demand for flights. For domestic travel, the group is urging LGUs to accept vaccination cards with or without QR codes. They are also appealing to increase the passenger cap on international travels from 4,000 to 10,000. Let's now take a quick look at today's other top stories. The U.S. issues a warning to China amid escalating tensions in the West Philippine Sea. Washington said it stands with the Philippines in the face of escalating tensions in the South China Sea. Though a negative drug test is not a requirement for election candidates, the PNP is hoping that aspirants would voluntarily subject themselves to drug testing. And a bit of good news for commuters, as fuel products are set for another round of price cuts this week. And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us later at 12 noon as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Maricel Halini. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.